Please stop asking me to remove my veil
Why?
because if you see my face. The voice stopped. For a moment, the only sound of crickets filled the evening air. Hello and welcome to Ichadana Audio. Some veils hide beauty, some veils hide pain. Today's story is an original supernatural tale, Behind the Veil. If you enjoy original horror stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, lock your doors, dim the lights, and let's begin. Behind the Veil. After years of unemployment, I thought my life had finally changed when I received an appointment letter from the village council office of Sundarpur. To most people, it was an ordinary government job with a modest salary. To me, it was salvation. My parents died years ago. I had spent most of my adult life drifting through the crowded household of my brothers, surviving on their charity while silently enduring the humiliation of being unemployed. So, when I left the city with a small travel bag and a few sets of clothes, nobody tried very hard to stop me. If anything, they seemed relieved. Sundarpur lay several miles from the nearest railway station. The village was surrounded by endless green fields and divided by a crystal clear river called Purna. The moment I arrived, I fell in love with the place. The elderly village headman arranged a small house beside the council office for me to live in. The salary wasn't much. The house wasn't luxurious. But for the first time in years, I had peace. I promised myself that I would spend the rest of my life quietly. I would do my work, enjoy the beauty of the countryside, and never return to the bitterness of my old life. Fate, however, had other plans. One morning, while sorting the documents inside the office, I noticed someone standing silently at the doorway. A young woman. Her entire face and body was hidden behind a long veil. Yet, there was something captivating about her. The graceful way she stood, the elegance of her movements, the quiet confidence that seemed to surround her. It felt as though extraordinary beauty was concealed beneath that simple veil. Before I could speak to her, several villagers rushed into the office demanding tax receipts and signatures. By the time I finished helping them, she had disappeared. I don't know why, but I felt strangely disappointed. At the time, I had no idea that this mysterious veiled woman would soon change my life forever. Several evenings later, I saw her again. The sun had already disappeared beyond the rice fields, leaving the village wrapped in deep blue twilight. In Sundarpur, darkness arrived quickly. By nightfall, the village seemed to vanish beneath a blanket of silence. I was sitting on the veranda of my small house, drinking tea, when I noticed a familiar figure walking slowly along the road. A woman, covered from head to toe by the same veil. My heart immediately began to race. Without thinking, I hurried toward her.
Do you live in this village?
I asked. She remained silent. The weak glow of a nearby lamppost illuminated the edge of her veil. I tried to catch a glimpse of the face hidden beneath it. The moment I did it, she stepped back, not frightened, not nervous, simply careful. I cleared my throat. It's getting dark.
Shouldn't you be home? Walking alone at this hour can be dangerous.
Still, no reply, only silence. It should have annoyed me. Instead, it fascinated me. For months, I had lived alone in Sundarpur. I cooked for myself, worked during the day, read books at night. The peaceful routine suited me perfectly. After years of hardship, I had wanted nothing more from life than a quiet contentment. Yet, for reasons I couldn't explain, this mysterious veiled girl had disturbed that peace completely. I found myself thinking about her constantly, wondering who she was, wondering what she looked like, wondering why she always kept her face hidden. I took another step closer.
Do you live here in Sundarpur?
This time she slowly nodded. A strange excitement surged through me.
Can you speak?
I asked. Or are you simply choosing not to? For a few moments, she remained motionless. Then, at last, she spoke. My name is Rupushi. The sound of her voice struck me like music. It was so soft, melodious, beautiful beyond description. I had never heard a voice like it before. For a moment, I forgot the darkness around us, forgot the village, forgot everything except that voice. The desire to know her grew overwhelming. I wanted to hear her speak again, wanted to learn everything about her, wanted her presence in my life. Before I could say another word, I heard approaching footsteps. Someone was coming down the road. I turned and recognized the village headman emerging from the darkness. Immediately, my senses returned. In a conservative village like Sundarpur, an unmarried man and woman talking alone after sunset could easily become the subject of gossip. When I looked back towards Rupushi, she was gone, just vanished, as though she had dissolved into the evening mist itself. I laughed to myself. The girl was clever, very clever, and this very cleverness makes her worthy of becoming my life partner. And from that moment onward, I became more determined than ever to find her again. Unfortunately, fate seemed determined to torture me. A week passed, then another. Rupushi was nowhere. Every evening, I found myself searching the roads, the riverbank, the village paths. Nothing, The mystery only deepened my obsession. Then, one evening, just when I had almost convinced myself that I would never see her again, she appeared, standing quietly beneath a banyan tree near the edge of the village, waiting, as though she had known I would come. This time I wasted no time.
There is something important I want to tell you,
I said. For a few moments she said nothing. Then her gentle voice emerged from behind the veil. What is it? I swallowed hard. I had never been in love before. Poverty and responsibility had stolen my youth long before romance could find me. I knew nothing about women, nothing about courtship, nothing about matters of the heart. But I knew one thing. If I failed to speak now, I would regret it for the rest of my life.
there is one condition.
I said. What condition?
You must remove your veil.
A long silence followed. Then she spoke softly. Why? Because I want to look into your eyes when I tell you the truth. The girl laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, but there was something unsettling hidden within that laughter. You believe that seeing my face will help you to speak the truth.
Yes,
You are mistaken. Her voice became strangely serious. If I remove this veil, you may never be able to speak another lie again. A chill ran down my spine. Yet, my curiosity had already become stronger than caution. And somewhere deep inside me, I sensed that my life was about to change forever. The evening air suddenly felt colder. The shadows beneath the banyan tree seemed darker than before. Ruposhi stood motionless before me, her face hidden beneath the veil. If I remove this veil, she said quietly, promise me something. What? Promise me that after seeing my face, you won't turn away from me. I laughed. The request seemed absurd. How could a face change what I felt? How could beauty disappear so completely that a person deserved to be abandoned?
I promise.
I said firmly. For a few moments, she remained silent. Then she spoke again. Think carefully before making promises.
I already have.
And you will keep your word?
Yes,
The sound that escaped her lips almost resembled a sigh. Very well. Slowly, she raised her hands. My heart pounded. At last, I was about to see the face that had haunted my thoughts for weeks. The face that abandoned. The face that belonged to the sweetest voice I had ever heard. The face I had imagined countless times. The veil began to slip. For a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of her pale skin. Then everything shuddered. A scream tore from my throat. The world spun violently around me. I staggered backward. No! No! This couldn't be real! Where I had expected beauty, there was horror. The lower half of her face had been consumed by disease. The flesh around her mouth had rotted away. Part of her nose was missing. The skin hung in twisted, ruined folds. Dark wounds covered her cheeks. What remained of her lips trembled as she stared at me. The sight was so terrible that my stomach lurched. I fell to my knees and began to retch. My entire body shook uncontrollably. Leprosy! The terrible disease I had only heard about in stories. The disease that had stolen her face. The disease that had transformed a beautiful woman into something almost unrecognizable. I tried to look away. I couldn't. The image burned itself into my mind. Then I heard a laughter. Sharp, bitter, heartbreaking. Rupushi was laughing. Well? She asked. Her damaged voice echoed through the darkness. Do you still want me now? The laughter grew louder. What's wrong? She took a step towards me. I thought you wanted to see my face. Another step. Wasn't this what you wanted? I stumbled backward. The world blurred before my eyes. Fear, shock, disgust, shame, all of it crushed together inside me. Then everything went black. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was Ruposhi's laughter drifting across the night wind. A laughter filled not with cruelty but with unimaginable sorrow. When I opened my eyes, sunlight was streaming through a window. For several moments, I couldn't remember where I was. Then the memories returned. The veil, the face, the laughter. I sat upright immediately. A wave of dizziness swept through me.
Easy, son.
The familiar voice belonged to the village headman. I looked around. I was lying in his house. Several villagers stood nearby, watching me with concern. The village doctor had apparently spent most of the night treating a severe fever that struck after I collapsed.
What happened?
The headman asked gently.
We found you unconscious outside your house.
I hesitated. How could I possibly explain what I had seen? Who would believe me? Yet, the faces around me filled not with suspicion but with genuine concern. Finally, I told them everything, every detail. The mysterious girl, the veil, the promise, the face beneath it. As I spoke, a strange silence settled over the room. Nobody interrupted, nobody laughed, nobody questioned my sanity. When I finished, the expressions on their faces had changed. Some looked sad, others looked frightened. The village headman lowered his eyes. The room felt silent. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Nobody seemed surprised by my story. Nobody questioned whether I had imagined it. That frightened me more than anything else. At last, the village headman sighed deeply.
You have seen her too.
A cold shiver ran down my spine.
What do you mean by two?
The old man remained silent for several moments. Then he spoke.
Because you are not the first.
The words struck me like a hammer. Not the first? How many others had seen her? How many others had stood beneath that veil? One of the villagers, an elderly farmer named Jiten, lowered his eyes sadly. Poor Ruposhi, he murmured. The headman nodded. Yes,
Poor Ruposhi.
I stared at them in confusion.
Who was she?
The old man's withered face seemed to age another 10 years. Then slowly he began his story.
Many years ago,
He said,
before you came to Sundarpur, there lived a girl named Ruposhi. Was she beautiful?
I asked. A faint smile appeared on the old man's face.
Beautiful?
He shook his head.
That word is too small.
The villagers nodded in agreement.
She was the kind of beauty people remembered for years after seeing her.
Large eyes, long black hair, skin the color of golden wheat, and a smile that could brighten an entire room. The old man paused. Her parents gave her the name Ruposhi because it means the beautiful one.
And for many years,
The name suited her perfectly. I remembered the sweet voice beneath the veil, the graceful movements, the elegance. For a moment, I could almost imagine the girl she had once been.
what happened to her?
I asked quietly. The headman's expression darkened.
Disease.
The room grew heavy.
In those days, medical treatment
Was difficult to obtain in villages like ours. One day, strange marks began appearing on her skin. Then came the numbness, the wounds, the pain. He swallowed. Leprosy. A murmur passed through the room. Even now, the word carried fear.
people were terrified of the disease.
Jiten said,
Many believed it was a curse from God. We were ignorant. We didn't understand.
I lowered my eyes. Neither had I. When I had seen her face, my first reaction had been horror, not compassion, not pity, only horror. The realization filled me with shame. The headman continued.
At first, her family tried to take care of her, but as the disease worsened, his voice broke. They abandoned her.
The room began silent again. I felt my chest tightened.
Abandoned her?
The old man nodded. They left, just left, and never came back.
The image was unbearable.
A young woman, terribly ill, rejected by her own family, left completely alone. How did she survive? I asked.
She begged.
The answer came from Jiten. The farmer stared at the floor while speaking. Sometimes
she would come to our doors asking for food. We wanted to help. We truly did. But everyone was afraid. So we would leave food outside and step away. No one dared touch her. No one dared come near her.
His voice trembled.
And every day she became more alone.
The guilt in the room was almost tangible. These people had not hated Rupushi, but fear had made them helpless. And fear can sometimes be just as cruel as hatred. The headman continued softly. Yet she never became bitter. Never. Despite everything she suffered, she remained kind, polite, gentle. His eyes filled with sadness. But there was one thing she always dreamed of.
What?
The old man smiled sadly.
The same thing many young women dreamed of. A husband, a family, a home filled with love. The words hit me harder than I expected. Of course, beneath the disease, beneath the loneliness, beneath the suffering, she had simply been a young woman with ordinary dreams. Dreams that fate had stolen from her. The headman looked toward the window. Outside, the waters of the Purna river sparkled beneath the afternoon sun. One evening, he said quietly, Rupushi went to the river to take some rest after begging.
The villagers lowered their heads. Nobody spoke. The old man's voice became little more than a whisper.
She looked into the water. The river was calm, so calm that it reflected her face perfectly. A terrible feeling settled in my stomach. I already knew what came next. Perhaps, the headman continued, she avoided mirrors for a long time. Perhaps she still hoped she looked somewhat like the girl she used to be. His eyes closed briefly. But that evening, she saw the truth. The room remained deathly silent. She saw what the disease had done. She saw what remained of her face. She saw the future waiting for her. A knot formed in my throat. The old man opened his eyes, and that night, Ruposhi had relieved all the pain by jumping into the river water. The body had already decayed halfway, and whatever remained was probably used to satisfy the appetites of aquatic creatures. The room remained silent long after the story ended. Outside, a gentle wind rustled through the trees. At last, I managed to speak.
Then, the girl I saw.
The headman nodded slowly.
Yes.
My mouth felt dry.
And all these years?
Again he nodded. She still wanders. A strange sadness washed over me. The terror I had felt the night before was gone. In its place remained only sorrow. Sorrow for a lonely girl who had suffered so much. Sorrow for a dream that had never been fulfilled. And somewhere deep within my heart, a growing suspicion that Rupushi's story was not yet over. For a long time, nobody spoke. The afternoon sunlight slowly faded from the room. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a bird called from the river bank. At last, I broke the silence.
If Rupushi died years ago, why does she still appear?
The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. It was Jitin who answered first. Because she still waits.
Waits for what?
The old farmer looked towards the headman. The headman shied.
Love.
The word echoed strangely through the room. I stared at him. Love? He nodded.
The life she wanted was taken from her before it even began.
A husband, a family, a home. Those desires never left her. A cold sensation crawled across my skin. The headman continued. Whenever an unmarried young man comes to Sundarpur, sooner or later Rupushi finds him. The room seemed to grow colder. I remembered her appearing at the council office, the road at dusk, the banyan tree. Had she been watching me all along? Why? I asked. The old man smiled sadly. Because hope is difficult to kill, even after death. His words lingered heavily in the air. Jitin spoke again. At first, she approaches them gently. She talks. She listens. And for a little while, his voice faltered. For a little while, she gets to pretend she is an ordinary young woman again. The image broke my heart. Not a monster, not a vengeful spirit, just a lonely soul desperately clinging to a dream. But why the veil? I asked. The headman looked directly into my eyes.
To protect them.
I blinked in surprise.
Protect them?
Yes.
Rupushi always warns them not to remove it. She gives them every opportunity to walk away. The memory returned instantly.
Please don't ask me to remove the veil. Promise you won't leave after seeing my face. Think carefully before making promises.
She had warned me again and again, and I had ignored every warning. A heavy shame settled inside my chest. The headman continued. Most young men became curious. They believe her beauty must be extraordinary. They imagine a face more beautiful than any they have ever seen. His eyes softened. But beauty isn't what waits beneath the veil. I lowered my head. No one needed to remind me. I already knew. What happens to them? I asked quietly. The villagers remained silent. The silence itself felt like an answer. A chill ran through me. Finally, Jiten spoke. Most recover eventually, but none ever forget. The room fell silent again. After several moments, the headman's wife entered carrying tea. The elderly woman looked at me with remarkable kindness. Then she sat beside my bed. "My poor boy," she said softly. The affection in her voice reminded me painfully of my mother. Realizing it, I felt tears gathering in my eyes. The old woman gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "Don't be afraid of her." I looked up. "Afraid?" "Yes. Rupushi has suffered enough. She never wanted to hurt anyone." The old woman's eyes shimmered. Even when she was alive, she was kind. After death, she remained the same. Lonely, but kind. The room grew quiet. Then something unexpected happened. The headman's wife began to cry. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the quiet tears of a mother grieving for a lost child. "She used to call me auntie," the old woman whispered. "Sometimes she would bring flowers. Sometimes she would sit and talk. Such a sweet girl." The villagers lowered their heads. No one interrupted, because every person in that room carried the same guilt. They had watched Rupushi suffer. They had pitied her, yet none had been able to save her. The headman's wife wiped away her tears. "We cannot let her suffer any longer." The old man nodded slowly. "You are right." Jiten spoke up at once. "Then we should arrange for Rupushi's funeral rites and do the offerings properly." The villagers exchanged solemn glances. "Yes, it's time. Poor girl has suffered enough." For a few moments, silence filled the room. The villagers believed that Rupushi's soul remained trapped between the worlds, bound by the dreams she had never been allowed to fulfill. She had longed for a husband, a home, and children of her own. Those desires had followed her even beyond death. Perhaps that was why she still wandered through Sundarpur. Perhaps that was why she sought out unmarried young men. The headman's wives folded her hands. If the rites are performed properly, perhaps she will finally be released from her suffering. The old man nodded. And perhaps, by God's grace, she will born again to a loving family, Jiten added softly, to a life free from pain, to the happiness she was denied in this one. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. My child deserves that chance. The room fell silent once more, and before I could stop myself, I heard my own voice. I will come with you. Everyone turned towards me. If there's anything I can do to help Rupushi find peace, I want to do it. For the first time that day, a faint smile appeared on Headman's face. The following morning, word spread throughout Sundarpur. The villagers had made their decision. They would perform Rupushi's funeral rites, not out of fear, not because they wished to rid themselves of a ghost, but because they could no longer bear the thought of her suffering. For years, she had wandered between two worlds, neither fully among the living nor truly among the dead. A young woman whose dreams had died before she did. The headman, Jiten, and several other villagers began making preparations immediately. The village priest was consulted. An auspicious date was selected. Offerings were arranged. And throughout it all, I found myself thinking of only one person, Rupushi. For days, I had feared her. Now, I pitied her. No, more than pity. I mourned her. That evening, unable to remain indoors any longer, I found myself walking towards the bank of the Purna river. The sun had already set. The water reflected the silver light of the rising moon. The entire world seemed suspended between dream and reality. Then I saw her, standing alone beside the river. The veil covered her face as always. For a moment, neither of us spoke. At last, she broke the silence. So, her familiar voice floated across the water. They told you? Yes. She lowered her head slightly. For the first time, she seemed neither mysterious nor frightening, only tired, very tired. You must hate me now. The words pierced my heart. No, she laughed softly. A sad laugh. Everyone says that. I took a step closer. No, Rupushi, I don't hate you. The river breeze stirred her veil. For several moments she remained silent. Then She asked the question she had probably carried for years. Do I frighten you? I thought carefully before answering. The first time, my voice faltered. Yes, she nodded, as expected. But not anymore. The silence that followed felt strangely peaceful. At last, she spoke again. You know, when I was alive, I used to dream. The moonlight shimmered on the river. I wanted a husband, a little house, a child who would call me mother. Her voice trembled. Nothing extraordinary, just an ordinary life. A lump formed in my throat. She continued, but God had other plans. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. A gentle laugh this time. I used to imagine what my wedding day would look like. The confession was so heartbreakingly human that my eyes stung. I even imagined the names of my children. A tear slipped from beneath the veil. I was foolish, wasn't I? No. The answer escaped before I could stop it. You were human. For a long time, she stood motionless. Then she whispered, Thank you. The words were almost carried away by the wind. For what? For saying that. The river flowed quietly beside us. Then she turned towards me. You should go now. Rupushi, please. Her voice remained gentle. When they perform the rites, she paused. Don't be sad. I felt an ache in my chest. What if they don't work? A faint smile touched her voice. They will. How do you know? Because this time she looked towards the village lights glowing in the distance. People are finally letting me go. The words linger in the night air. Then, slowly, she raised one hand, not in farewell, almost like a blessing. I hope, she whispered, that in my next life. The wind carried away part of the sentence. What? I asked, but she only laughed softly. A young woman's laugh. The laugh she might have had before disease and suffering stole everything from her. Then the mist drifting across the river thickened, and when it cleared, Rupushi was gone. A few weeks later, rites were performed. The entire village attended. Prayers were offered. Sacred mantras echoed beneath the open sky. Many tears were shed, especially by the headman's wife. When the ceremony ended, a strange feeling settled over Sundarpur. Not sorrow, not fear, peace. For the first time in years, nobody, seeing a veiled woman wandering through the village after sunset. No mysterious figure appeared near the river. No lonely voice called from the darkness. Rupushi was gone. At last. Years have passed since then. I still live in Sundarpur. The river still flows. The village remains as beautiful as ever. But sometimes, on quiet moonlit nights, I find myself standing beside the Purna river. And I wonder, somewhere in this vast world, has Rupushi been born again? Has she found the life she dreamt of? A loving husband? A happy home? Children running through a sunlit courtyard? I like to believe she has. Because after everything she endured, no soul deserved happiness more than hers. And perhaps this is the true ending of her story. Or perhaps it is only the beginning. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Behind the Veil. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video, sharing your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribing to Ichedana Audio for more original supernatural tales, mysteries, and ghost stories. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious. Have a good day.